Mr. Madman, stage left. The audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. The curtain rises and the players come out. Webs of lies spinning from their mouths. Stop looking, listen for a little while. Attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood. It's never enough. On the face of all mankind, our numbers up and the dead woman sign. Go along to get along in the tide by the siren song. The flames are empty and the crypts are cracking open. The hordes upon you and you stand there frozen, waiting for the word. Stand in line and wait. Don't follow the strings to find out who is pulling. Just drink your poison, keep on laughing and drooling, eating your own flesh. The master always knows what's worldwide genocide. The overlords of hungry parasites. The point the finger and the eagles fly. Raining fire, children die. Starving plague, paralyzed. Pile of bodies rotten, covered in fire. But no one wants to talk about it. Strings, no more bowing to the master. I tried to run, but they only came faster. Now I stand my ground. I ain't backing down. Silver bullets in my pistol, in my holster. My will is strengthened and my confidence is bolstered. Don't test my resolve. Don't test my resolve.
Oh my God, coming to the checkered flag.
Hello!
Wait
a minute. There we go. Stop. Done wrecked it with Tim's intermission. Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. It is Sunday, January the 14th, 2023. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by Dustin. Tim can't be with us tonight. Hopefully he'll be back this Wednesday or next week. You'll see him again. Don't worry. He's doing just fine out there. How's it going, Dustin?
Not too bad for, Sunday.
All right, Sunday in Carter County. We're coming to you live. It's about 25, 23 degrees out there.
We survived Snowmageddon 2023.
That's right.
The whole, there's more fucking salt in the road than there was snow.
Yeah, there's salt.
They went
everywhere.
Crazy with it.
I went to the range today, and there was some dudes from Boone, some younger dudes down there that they said they just started getting the guns and COVID and stuff, and they had some cool stuff. And we all hung out, and one guy had a 74 build, a Bulgarian 74. Ooh. He had a PSL.
Where are you finding freaking 545 at?
He had plenty of it. He had a PSL. He had one guy had an FAL, like a newer FAL.
They had like a Zostava M70. They had all kinds of fun stuff. I had the Tavor with the freaking EOTech.
Tavors, they're cool. I like the bullpups, unless hopefully if it's one of the newer ones where they fixed the trigger linkage, because the old ones,
he didn't
they're
seem to have any
garbage.
trouble with it.
The old
pretty
ones
cool.
are garbage.
But anyway,
I mean, if you get into it and really you can still hit good shots, but
Yeah.
you're like, it is not a good trigger. It is not nice.
Hmm.
Everyone I've shot, but they were the older ones when they first came out, so
yeah,
they made.
he bought it. His is pretty new.
Okay, so I think they've done like some revisions to them recently, and
But yeah, we had a good time up there today, and there was salt everywhere. But luckily, the range was still frozen, so it wasn't a mud hole up there. And I took the youngins out first thing this morning, and we went up there. It was about 15 degrees when we started. We were up there shooting 22s at about 8 this morning because they had to go early. And then after they left, me and a friend went over there and went back and met up with those other dudes who were over there, and we were having a good time. How was your weekend?
it's okay. I had my first shoot Friday for the year.
Sweet.
Yeah, over at Capone's for a Wind Rider and
Oh, nice.
Sick Beyond. And
That's him
Death
loving the boys,
Nebula.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
heck yeah. All right. Well, we always
Did
wish
that,
those
and
guys luck and like to hear what they come up with. Our buddy Moose is going to be out next weekend. He's going to be
I
in
heard that.
Bristol. Where is it he's going to be?
Elder Brew.
Elder Brew, yeah. So go see Moose. He's back. He's doing shows again. He hasn't done shows in like 3 years. It'll be good to see Moose back on the stage. I'm going to try my best to go to that. So hope to see some of y'all there too if you're from our local area.
We might try. Depends on what my Saturday looks like.
Yeah. So that's over in Bristol, Tennessee. That'll be a lot of fun. And if you haven't seen, Moose's records are awesome. But if you haven't seen Moose live, you've not seen the true Moose. And the true Moose is what you want to see. It's probably the one of the best performances ever seen. A lot of people tell me this anyway, believe me. But yeah, he's definitely doing his thing out there. Good to have Moose go to search Moose Roberts Bandcamp, and you've got his whole catalog in there. You can listen to for free, and then you can download the whole thing, take it on your phone for like $53. Definitely worth all. He's got so many albums. Dozens and dozens of them. I don't know exactly how many because he keeps putting them out all the time. I'm featured on a couple of those albums, and he's actually featured playing some lead guitar on my Dustin's album, Corned Beef and the Pillbillies. So you can definitely check out Moose in a lot of different places, and we would advise you to do so.
The Screamer has blessed us.
What's up, Screamer? Woo-hoo! All hail the Moose. That's right. I've said many times there should be a statue of Moose and Bristol right when you roll in. You know where they had that big guitar that they had to tear down several years ago? They need a statue of Moose.
Or they
with
need
the
that
Telecaster.
one where they have the two people, the bronze statues where they're singing in the mic.
Yeah.
They need to have Moose up there.
Hey, let's scoot this microphone over in for you a little bit. I believe you're a little bit quiet there. There we go. That'll be better. And y'all jump in the chat. If you haven't already, like the video, please. That shows it to other people. It's a big deal. It just takes a second. If you wouldn't mind to give it a like, that helps other people who have already subscribed to us but are not getting notifications. That helps them actually get notifications if people are liking the video, especially after the live is done and the replay's back on. The likes really help out with that. Also, go over to Rumble and search for the Iron Mountain Hour. I should have just put that in the description. I'll add that after here in just a minute. I'll add that. But actually, I'll go ahead and do that now because Rumble is where we want to make our main channel again. But here we run into this dilemma. A lot of the things that we're trying to talk about, like some of the topics we're talking about tonight, the Nightmare Smart City Dystopia, is some of the things are touch and go. You don't know whether you're going to be able to say the full story on YouTube or not. And sometimes you may get a strike for saying the full story. So we run into the dilemma of a lot of people we're trying to reach that really don't know about this are kind of your normal folks who are on YouTube, right?
Yeah. Because everyone's on YouTube.
Yeah, that's where everybody is. So that's why we ultimately decided to do this channel on YouTube to begin with, is because that's where we could get everybody. It's the most user friendly. You can live stream easily. That's why we like it. But the problem of that is if you tell too much truth, they're going to boot you off. On the other half of the dilemma is when you go on Rumble, most of the people there are already looking for information like this. So we're not really necessarily reaching the people that we want to reach in our area with the information if we put it on Rumble. So we fall into that dilemma, but we're trying to put it on both platforms. We're going to try to add more platforms as we build our audience, and we'd love for you to join in on them. We're also on, I have a channel on Odyssey. I haven't used it much. I have uploaded a couple just to test it, but I think Rumble is the play for right now. especially since we will be able to live stream on Rumble.
Okay.
As soon as enough of you follow us on Rumble, I think we need 100 followers on there to be able to actually live stream. So as soon as
go do that myself.
yeah, you do, man. So as soon as enough of you will follow us on there, we'll put the live stream on both places, and then you can, they can't shut us down everywhere. So we'll
procrastinate a little bit because there's a couple people I met on the video game Escape from Tarkov.
Yeah.
I've been playing it since I haven't really got to go out and do real gun things. So I'm like, let's go with a simulator, basically. And they were like, okay, we need a Discord so we can actually go in as a team.
Yeah.
Because it's like when you're using, it's hard to use, like, hit a different key to hit the team chat.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and then everybody can hear you in the world, too.
Yeah.
So it's like, it makes it pretty obvious where you are.
Yeah, that's how it is on DayZ, too. And, either use your mic and everybody can hear you, or you can use some kind of Discord server or team chat in order to keep it private. But I don't know, to me that kind of adds to the realism of it. I like the idea of if I talk on the game, everybody else in the game can hear me too. So I have to be quiet.
I like it, but it's like when you're trying to move as a squad, and you have to take your hand off because your keybind is all the way over here, unless you're sitting here making this huge stretch.
Yeah. That makes
Especially
sense.
since there's so many different keystrokes for that game, and I'm not very good at it yet.
69, that's right, Dalton.
Nice.
And maybe we can make it 4 hours and 20-minute stream. No, I don't think so. But it is pretty nice. It's pretty cool. Dustin and I were talking about before we got started here that our As Above, So Below episode would coincidentally, maybe not. We didn't plan it that way. Certainly, maybe somebody else did. But it coincidentally became episode 69, which is the 6 and 9 inverted. So that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some pretty cool, 69 episodes too is quite an accomplishment too, now that you mention it, because most podcasts or this kind of format shows, they make it less than 3 episodes. 99% of them only make it to 3 episodes. And then 90% of those actually fail or dissolve before a year. So, 99% of those don't make it to 20 episodes. That's what it was.
Oh.
So we're well past that. We're rocking and rolling. We don't care if people don't watch us.
0.1% of germs that Lysol don't kill.
That's right. and hopefully we'll, like those germs that the Lysol doesn't kill, we'll keep getting stronger, and the harder they beat us down, the worse we'll come back. So that's our game plan. And to make it into 69 episodes, it feels like a lot. I wondered, when we first started doing this, would I in fact be able to speak for an hour on a microphone? And turns out
now it's like 2
pretty
hours
easy.
most
Yeah,
of the time.
it's pretty hard to get done before 2 hours, especially when you have me and Dustin and Tim in here. But yeah, well, let's go ahead and move into the green room segment of the show. Before we get too far, I got a few things that are a little bit unrelated, but they fit the regular flavor of the show, so I want to show them to you. Pretty cool stuff here. Let me turn on this desktop audio here so y'all can hear it. Hopefully you can hear it. You really don't have to, but it'll be all the better if you do. Now let's see here. Be sure and hit us up in the chat, comment, and send us emails at theironmountainhour@gmail.com if you have anything to say about any of this stuff. We'd love to hear it, and especially in the chat, live chat. That's the best way. But the comments are great too. I always try to check the comments every couple days and respond to whatever people put in there. We get some real interesting stuff. We get some real interesting stories. I want to thank everybody for sharing. People like AO, Spill the Tea, people like Anna, Dalton. We really appreciate y'all. Vacant Josh, Sean. It's nice to have you all in there, and we love hearing from you, and we want to hear more from you. So definitely get in that chat and mix it up. Talk to each other in there. Well, we can, that's how we do this. We have a conversation, and we want to hear what you think about these ideas. We want to hear if you think we're full of shit, if you think we're missing something, if you think we're just wrong, or if you agree with us. We'd love to hear from you. So jump in that chat and mix it up with us a little bit there. Mix it up with each other.
If we are full of shit, be the laxative that cleans us out.
That's right. Be the coffee enema that straightens us up. So, to get into the green room tonight, I want to start you off with this
short clip. Just be the coffee enema.
We need that on a t-shirt.
Yep.
Look at this here, man. This guy says this is a giant. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty wild looking. So I don't know if you'll be able to hear it or not. Hopefully you can, but if not, it really doesn't matter. But look here.
What is it?
It's a person, dude. No, seriously, pull over. No. There's a person standing there.
No, it's not.
Dude,
definitely
if you see what I've seen
moved
right
some
now,
since he was first looked at it. Hard to say because it's so far away, but it's moving. Doesn't it look like moving to you?
Yes, slightly. And the hard thing is where it's on a phone, being recorded from a phone in a car.
Yeah. But
Whatever it
pretty
is,
wild.
it's large.
Yeah,
Considering how far away that mountain is to its size, that's
and could it be a tree? I mean, there's no way that's a tree,
not a
right?
tree
I
because
mean,
it's already past the timber line. How
Yeah,
wide it is
exactly.
up there.
So is a rock. If it's a rock, why did it?
If it's a rock, it's a very weird straight rock.
Yeah. So some kind of says it's some kind of manufactured structure. I don't know, but it did look like it was moving. I'm not sure where that is, but it looks like a national park sign right there or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks kind of like maybe Mount Rainier or Mount Hood, somewhere out on the Pacific Northwest area.
It's Rockies side.
Yeah,
But
who knows exactly where that might be. But I've got a guy here, Bobby, on Twitter. I wet my denims at I wet my denims is his is his handle. But he says the guy who made this had people gang stalk him, and he said he was going to be killed, and he actually died like 2 months later. And Bobby says he had videos of cars outside his house, and he was MIA off TikTok for like 2 months. Made a weird comeback video. He seemed scared, like he was looking at someone out of frame. Then shortly after, he was found dead. And we got the response here. Crypto Twitter. Fuck that. Cryptid Twitter. Give me more. Give me some more.
that would be kind of nice.
What is you looking at? Give me some more. So yeah, we definitely want some more cryptids up in the mix. And for when we continue in the green room here, got another story for you. Both these are in the description if you want to check them out. Most of the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight, I did put it in the description. I'm going to try to start doing that more. I should have been doing it all along. I've done it some off and on. I'm going to try to be better about that. Usually I have just enough time to actually program the show.
Yeah.
And then, it comes down to actually setting it up and including links. Oh shit, let me hurry and type this up so we can get on the air.
It's like 9:55.
Yeah.
We got to start.
I collect the research throughout the week, and then I kind of study it and compile it on Saturdays and Sundays, and then on Sunday I put the show together, usually about the evening
I
because
just kind of walk in the door and be like, okay,
yeah.
let's roll with it.
Yeah, it actually, takes quite a bit of time to come across all this stuff and look into it and follow it up and try to trace down these rabbit holes. So I certainly welcome your, if you want to join us and send us anything that you find or any rabbit holes that you find interesting. I'd love to hear about them. This one I came across. Have you ever heard of the Hat Man?
It's like I've heard of it quite a bit. If it's like any other kind of like shadow person, shadow entity, I do have a kind of a segue story after this to go with for you.
All right. Well, this is an image of the Hat Man.
It creeps me out.
Yeah, and that does remind me of that story you told us about hearing a shadow person peeking when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely we want to hear that one again. But I want to go ahead and read this thread for you about the Hat Man. And this is from, this research is done by Anthony of Westgate. He's at Orthodogo on Twitter. And I've linked this thread in the description so you can go back and check that out. But I'll show you the Hat Man again real quick here. There's a quick, I guess, artist rendition of the Hat Man. And we've seen, I don't know if you remember that movie Sin City, where Elijah Wood, I don't remember if he wears a hat or not, but he kind of has those glowing eyes, and he's a cannibal to keep the magic going. And that's a wild movie. If you haven't seen that, definitely check out Sin City. I've not seen it in a long time, but that kind of reminded me of this image here. But who is the Hat Man? Anthony says, in my research, I've uncovered how this dark apparition that has been encountered by people from all around the world, various cultures, and how it's linked to UFO phenomenon. Here is how the Hat Man is, in fact, a demonic entity. Anthony goes on, I admittedly was not familiar with the legend of the Hat Man until I read about Aaron Rodgers' encounter with him. Now, Aaron Rodgers, a football player, he claimed that after he had done ayahuasca, he has seen a Hat Man stalking him mysteriously, a dark man in a hat, sometimes holding a blade and sometimes holding like a dismembered animal. And he will see him in the distance. He talks about this after having done ayahuasca ceremonies. And a lot of people replied that they had similar encounters with things like sleep paralysis. And this is if you're not familiar with sleep paralysis, that's what they chalk a lot of UFO encounters up, like abductions. People who run into, have really realistic nightmares where they wake up and there's something in their room and they feel like they're awake but they can't move. And there may be aliens, there may be other kinds of monsters looking over them. There may be a hat man, a shadow person of some sort, who is often they're in the room with you, looking over you, and you cannot move, and they're either abducting you or.
I have some stories to kind of go along with that
Go
when
ahead.
I was young too.
Go ahead.
I mean, you can continue through that. I can tell at the end. To
Okay.
Add to it, not to so it doesn't break up the.
Okay. Well, Anthony goes on. He says, being the helpless pattern noticer that I am, I was compelled to research the phenomenon, and he found that there was a subreddit just dedicated to the Hat Man. And it's been going on. There's a research project been going on since 2001 that has hundreds of stories, and he links that Hat Man story there. So again, if you go to the description of the video, there it's labeled the Hat Man thread. You can go there and click on it if you want to follow up on this, because this is kind of the bread and butter of our site. Even though it's not the story I want to get into tonight, I just thought it was cool, and I thought we could go through it real quick.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers in 2005 says he had an encounter with a UFO in New Jersey, and he gave great detail to the story. And this guy is a ufologist, Dr. Jacques F. Valile. Well, he noted the similarity between UFO encounters and occult initiation rituals, which open the mind to a new set of symbols. And symbols are going to be important. We're talking as above, so below. We're talking macrocosm. We're talking microcosm. And a lot of this is represented in the symbology of the esoteric societies of, I don't know if you want to call it the spiritual side of the New World Order / Illuminati / whatever you want to call all these people. As soon as we start calling them what they call themselves, it becomes a trope, and it sounds like, like you can't even say Illuminati or New World Order anymore. It sounds like you're talking conspiracy theories, but that's what they were calling themselves. George W. Bush was the one that said New World Order. And then if you say Henry Kissinger said it, I mean, big, powerful people. There's hundreds of clips of people in the 90s talking about we're making a new world order. David Rockefeller, all kinds of the power players, most powerful people in the world saying these things. But yet if we say there's a new world order, it's conspiracy theory. Same with Illuminati. They called themselves that until other people realized that's what they started calling themselves. And then they said, oh, well, that's not what we're calling ourselves now. That's conspiracy theory. But regardless, let's go on down the thread here. Albert Bender, another famous ufologist, recalls having an encounter where he was visited at his house by 3 men in black. They communicated with him telepathically and gave him a metal disc. In the second visit, they told him they used captured human bodies to disguise themselves. And here's a picture of how he described them. This is Bender here with a picture of his men in black. And his encounter with the men in black, according to the material, interacting with the material, seems to be consistent with Aaron Rodgers' experience of the Hat Man audibly moving through the physical environment, as he recalls in a recent interview. Aaron Rodgers said, "It was behind me, not even breathing hard. I heard its feet hitting the ground in a constant rhythm. I ran to my car, opened the door, slammed it behind me, and locked it as fast as I could." Now, there may be many variations of how and when the Hat Man is encountered all over the world. The Hat Man's ability to interact with the material realm is found consistently in these stories. So he's not like a phantom who passes through objects, who can't affect things around us. He actually interacts with these things. So he seems to be, to all these people who report seeing the Hat Man, some sort of physical entity. We got another tweet here from a guy, a person, Jen Wilding. I had a Hat Man experience in childhood. Unforgettable event. Yes, a demon. I was not harmed, but it does pick up and move physical objects. Now, there's some other reports, like the Mr. Bender above, who had instances of multiple Hat Men, typically in groups of 3, like what Bender describes. And in rare cases, 1 or more Hat Men physically attacking the person, sometimes leaving cuts and bruises on their bodies. And we see that from poltergeists that do that, right? In demonic and spiritual traditions.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, poltergeists usually aren't really they're manifestations of a lot of negative energy. So it's like they're not really like ghosts or anything like that. They're like, it's like an energetic manifestation.
Now, now I thought that was interesting too, because they say that in the movie Poltergeist. They go into that in the first one, and then in the second one, he's basically a ghost. But it's also the it is the manifestation of that guy's hate and insanity and all his followers. So it's a little bit different than that, because they all died there, and then they say that was the poltergeist. So they got a little inconsistent there, but that is the classic definition of the poltergeist. And if you go like Ghostbusters, these guys knew about it too. I'm sure Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd had access to some esoteric occult material when they wrote that book, because
Dan Aykroyd, no.
yeah. They must have had the real deal though, because you couldn't just go on the internet and find out about, phantasms and poltergeists and stuff like that. You actually had to have some specialty reading material. And anyway, let's go on here. You got sometimes you get attacks. Now, the lives of saints can attest to the nature of various demonic manifestations materializing and dematerializing, even physically assaulting the saint. Saint Anthony the Great and Saint Marina and Saint Cyprian, the former sorcerer, for example, had confrontations for the like. There's the Saint Anthony being beaten by the demons here. So we got definitely that's an interesting introduction to it. Now, if you go to this man Anthony, his Substack is where you can read the whole article on this. If you're interested in this, I think it's very cool, and consider contributing to him, because he spends his time writing this kind of stuff. And Substack is a great place to find a lot of cool information that you can't find anywhere else, because amateur researchers and authors and reporters put stuff on there that they can't get published on, say, New York Times or Time Magazine or whatever. So definitely check out the Hat Man. If you've had any encounters with the Hat Man, let us know. Dustin, you've had something similar to the Hat Man.
I also had the Screamer give us something too.
Screamer, let me read what you got here. He says there's a lot of strange claims of portals and strange sightings around various snow-covered volcanic mountain peaks. And he says when he woke up when he was 6 or 7 years old in a completely dark house, in the doorway at the foot of my bed, there was a shadow like someone standing in my door frame with their hand up on the frame, the way you prop yourself up leaning on a door frame. I assumed it was my stepdad and went back to sleep, and the next morning I found out it wasn't him. I had a very similar encounter I've told the story before, but I'll make it real quick. I was in my son's room, and he liked to play in the dark. We like to play with Hot Wheels in the dark and stuff. And we had a light on in the hallway, and we saw 2 feet at the door. We assumed it was his mother, and we crawled over to the door. We were going to jerk the door open and surprise her. We did. The 2 feet were there when we pulled the door open, and then there was nobody there. Went outside, and his mom was sitting on the porch smoking a cigarette, had like this much ash on it. So I knew she had
been there for a minute.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the first kind of encounter like that I had. But Dustin, you had one at a young age.
Mm-hmm. I forget how young. I don't even know if I was actually in like kindergarten age yet. I may have been like 4 at the oldest. It was similar. It's like I woke up in the middle of the night, and you know how when you were your kid, sometimes you have like a night light or something. Mm-hmm. So I had like a closet light. It was like a light bulb in like the back of the closet, so we had it open just enough. But the door was opened a little further. When you looked up, it's like there was like someone peeking out from the door, and this top part of the shelf, which is only like that much space, like at the top, peering out, smiling at me. All you see are like white eyes and the smile of white teeth.
Super creepy.
Yeah.
And
what? I think.
Do you remember what you did?
Did
you just?
I yelled and screamed for my mom and dad to come in there, cause yeah.
Yeah, and those were the only times you saw it. You never like waited and saw what happened. You hollered for help both times, and it was gone when they came.
Mm-hmm.
Or okay.
Yeah, they never found anything. There was never anything in the closet either to try to disprove it, like something reflective.
Oh, this was just the reflection of the there was just this outfit that you had hanging up or whatever.
Considering it was in the top, and if there was like a human up there, you'd be like up there laying completely on your side up. There was like no way that it was infeasible how it happened. Yeah. Really.
Well, it definitely sounds pretty creepy, especially if you were, 4 or 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we lead into the main topic of tonight is going to be the bio nano engineering technical state. And we're talking about the episode As Above, So Below, which is, it's a really old part of esoteric philosophy. And the long and short of it is that basically what goes on in the heavens is what goes on in the earth, what goes on outside is what goes on inside. Everything is a reflection of another part of the universe. And that happens with good and evil, with material and anti-material, with creation and destruction. All the different things that kind of oppose one another, they also mirror one another in the world of philosophy and esoteric occult rituals and religion, all kinds of things like this. You see, actually, the Star of David is the sign of As Above, So Below. You also see it in the Masonic square and compass. You see it in a lot of different symbols. That the magician, the Baphomet, they all exhibit that. Even you've got statues of George Washington doing the As Above, So Below. One way that manifests, Dustin, the book that the Graham Hancock book that I loaned you, that I asked you about, I freaked out because I was like, dude, what would I have done? The only person I could have loaned that book to was Dustin. That's one of my favorite books, and but it shows how the ancient societies built their temples and monuments to reflect what they saw in the stars. So, for example, the 3 pyramids lined up at the time that they were built with the 3 stars in Orion's belt, and the 3, if this theory is correct. Now, mainstream archaeology doesn't exactly agree with it, because the time that they say the pyramids were built, they wouldn't have lined up with the stars in the Orion's belt like that. But if we rewind the stars further to where a lot of we'll just say non-mainstream archaeologists think that the pyramids may have actually been built, which is over 10,000 years ago, they would have lined up during that period of the Younger Dryas, the Younger Dryas period, about 10,000 to 13,000 years ago. And also, we would have had the Sphinx, which had a head of a lion, had the body of a lion and the head of a pharaoh. They say it may have originally had the head of a lion, but they carved the pharaoh's head out of it. But that also would have lined up with Leo at that time. Yeah, and
like 12,000 year ago period.
Yeah, and we see that all over the world, in Angkor Wat in India, and all over. I mean, all these different sites, all the sites you've seen on Ancient Aliens or Ancient Apocalypse. Almost all of those they are related to the sky, and so that shows you how far back As Above, So Below goes. And we also have talked on this channel a lot how the gods were personifications, the traits of the gods were personifications of the planets that they saw moving through the sky. And a lot of the stories that we use for mythology correspond to precession of the equinox, or the different constellations moving through space. They made a mythology to be able to pass those on to further generations, so that you have a story to help you remember that when just an example, when Sirius rises over in Egypt, that means the flood is about to happen. The Nile's about to flood. So you have a story about why that happens, and they use that to pass that knowledge on. But a lot of people say there's more, it's deeper than that, because these stories there's the base level story that's to help people remember when to plant their crops and harvest them. And then there's the deeper story for the initiate to understand, and then there's the adept who understands the hidden truth at the heart of it. And this goes back through all different societies, all different religions. They all have a very similar, at least 3-tiered approach to what their religions and mythologies mean. So go ahead.
Have you seen the meme? It was like says man creates AI perfects itself, AI enslaves mankind, the sun EMPs AI, man worships sun god.
Yeah.
And then it's just like,
yeah, it makes you wonder about that. And like we were watching, me and my wife were watching some volcano, we're watching about ancient volcanoes, and you got to thinking, like, no wonder these guys, no wonder they sacrifice people to volcano and shit, because it's like every so often the world would come alive and just destroy everything and kill everybody. So they're like, maybe if we just give them a little bit at a time, they will not kill us all. Because it's obvious that this volcano wants our souls and wants our death. So maybe if we just give it the soul of a virgin every year or something, it'll not erupt and destroy our whole town. So you can kind of see how they might have thought that. And just like you said with the sun god, the sun comes back out, and then everything starts blooming again. Everything starts coming to life. So the sun is the bringer of life, but that would be, again, that would be the base level. That wouldn't be the initiate. The initiate would understand that there's a deeper truth, and the adept would think, at least, that he has the real deal of what's going on. Like, oh, that's actually the spirit of this the other deity, and this is actually part of us. And so that's where where we get to as above, so below. Let's check the chat out there.
Tim versus everyone. Is throwing one in.
Okay, Tim. As above, so below is the second Hermetic principle. Look up the Emerald Tablet. It is considered the founding document for many esoteric schools, including the Kybalion. And yes, sir, that's the Hermetic principles are named after Hermes, who was the messenger of the gods, and this was basically the principles that were brought to how the knowledge of the gods and the knowledge of the ancients was brought to the people through Hermes. Kind of like Prometheus also, brings the fire of knowledge to people, or the fire to people, but it's really the knowledge. And I think a lot of that knowledge may have been technology of past civilizations, but that's just my opinion. But we have talked a lot on this channel. One of the main reasons of forming this channel is because they started putting the damn smart poles in Johnson City. And I was like, it was on WJHL. Nobody that I knew who watched the local news has talked about this. So I started asking people, have they heard about it? Most people said no. And most of the people I know actually kind of keep up fairly closely with the local news. And especially a lot of people I encounter at work, every time I go in their houses to provide services, they are having, and make what you will of provide services there, Tim. I know you've got a smart comment. Go ahead and put it in the chat. But when I go in there, their televisions are on WJHL, and a lot of times they're on the news. So I'll ask them, have you seen about the smart poles? And they're like, oh no. And then I go look at the YouTube video, and it's got 400 views after several months. I'm like, man, nobody knows about this. They reported it, but they also were like, oh, look, we're going to be having cameras in downtown with free Wi-Fi. Isn't that great? And we'll also be able to cut down on crime and help with parking. Won't that be so great? And, yeah, it doesn't sound so great to me.
Hey, it hasn't helped with parking.
No, it has. And it also hasn't helped with crime.
No, it's like since they put them in, it's like crime just skyrocketed.
Yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with the smart poles, but it has gone up since then, and the smart poles have not stopped it. But, Johnson City is like almost like a burgeoning miniature metropolis. It's got to be approaching 100,000 people now after so many people. 80,000 people came to Tennessee last year. And we had the last census in 2020 measured 71,000 in Johnson City. And Johnson City is one of the top destinations in the country for people moving. So, it's going to be at 100,000 people before too long, which is not a huge city, but, with that, you have, it's a medium-sized city, I would say. It's a large, small city. We'll put it like that. And Johnson City was the 5th largest city in Tennessee up until the 1950s, and then it kind of got left behind a little bit, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
If you combine all the Tri-Cities together, if you just take all the dead space in between them out and pushed them all together, that would be a very large city.
And I think there's 500,000 people in the Tri-Cities area, and so you can actually drive. I'm all the way over. I'm not even in the Tri-Cities, but I can drive to the far end of the Tri-Cities in about 45 minutes to an hour, reach the other side of Kingsport. So you can go from Johnson City to Kingsport in 30 minutes, or you can go from Kingsport to Bristol in 30 minutes, or you can go from Bristol to Johnson City in 30 minutes. So each part of the Tri-Cities is within 30 minutes of one another. So it's really, if you think about New York, how long it takes you to drive across New York, it's 10 times, or well, I guess 20 times the population, because a lot of ours is in rural area too. But all this stuff is coming to a lot of other places. The TVA gave a grant to Johnson City to do it, and the Johnson City gives all that data to the TVA. The TVA is a private corporation that is owned by the federal government. So it actually has government power without a lot of the restrictions of the government on it. And they're buying up this data to do God knows what with. But I don't think it's just to help you find parking or anything like that. So I want to go into a little bit of what the World Economic Forum, who is sponsoring a lot of these smart cities, including the one in Chattanooga. Chattanooga is one of the World Economic Forum's 50 pilot smart cities, right? And there's in these, or maybe it was 36. I don't remember. They did a bunch of them where they did pilot cities for smart technology. So I want to go into this story right here, or before I go into the story, I want to show you. This is the World Economic Forum's website, weforum.org, Impact Smart Cities Governance Alliance. He says, our alliance is creating smart governments. And here is their, visualization, I guess, of the smart grid. It says the Smart Cities Alliance is seeking additional cities and organizations to become pioneers in smart city governance. Now, what is the World Economic Forum famous for? What's the saying that you've heard? You will own nothing and you will be happy. You will eat the bugs. You will stay in your home. You will live in the metaverse. And now the metaverse might be very rudimentary form of what they actually want. But if y'all seen The Matrix, made in 1999, that was actually developed based on, that movie was written based on a Pentagon plan from 1977, where they would actually have artificial rooms full of people grown in artificial wombs, and that there would be no reproduction allowed by human beings. It would all be done by the state. And one of the reasons is because they were trying to cut down on the amount, this is with the military's, or the Pentagon's plan, is they wanted to cut down on the amount of resources that would require to sustain a population. So they wanted to move the population basically into a virtual format, to where you could exist in there and they could literally harvest energy from you with minimal caloric intake. And that book, Tim, tell me where The Matrix comes from. It was a myth, and I can't think of it offhand. I know you know. It's an old story before the Pentagon even came up with the idea, but I can't think of it right offhand. So Tim, I know you know the answer to this, so let me know in the chat, please. But let's continue on here just a little bit and see what it says. We got data gathered using Internet of Things technologies is helping cities combat crime and reduce pollution. Well, let's just look at a list of the World Economic Forum smart cities. Let's find that real quick, because I have a bit of an idea that it's probably just an inkling that it's probably a lot of really high crime cities that have been probably rising in crime. So let's see here. World Economic Forum Smart Cities Pilot. Let's see here. We've got 36 Pioneer City. Yes, I was right about that. Not 50. Well, I was right when I corrected myself. So we got Apeldoorn, Netherlands, Barcelona, Spain. No, Barcelona, Spain's a crime hotspot. Belfast, UK. You got Brasilia, Brazil. Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Like
Chattanooga, United States.
In Colombia, that's I've heard it's pretty rough there.
Yeah, and I bet you it's
Most
not really
of
helping.
Brazil, he usually has a bad rep for that in their urban areas.
Mm-hmm. And that's Brasilia. Pretty sure that's the capital city, one of the biggest. Istanbul. We got a lot of these I don't really know. So Lisbon, Portugal. That's a crime hotspot. London is awful now.
Yeah.
Manila in the Philippines. So these are all pretty high crime cities. Mexico City is not as bad as some of them, but any large city's got a lot of crime in it, really. San Jose, United States. San Jose and Chattanooga are the two that they did in the United States, and it's part of the Fourth Industrial Revolution initiative, and they are basically preparing the world for another industrial revolution where basically humans will be far less needed to carry out the manufacturing, the hands-on operations of companies such as deliveries. We're talking more drone deliveries. We're talking automatic transactions. We're talking a lot of things being automated and taking human beings out of the question here.
Sadly, no to that one.
Do they have them in Juarez? No. the Juarez right on the side of the border there of San Diego, man, they could probably use them. But no, that I don't think they would actually put them in anywhere where they would actually help anybody and stop crime. I don't think that's the idea. I think that's just the excuse. Ultimately, it is to put people in a monitored and regulated society where what you need can be brought to you, but you really don't get more than what you need unless you are wealthy. And then they want to make it into what they call 15-minute cities. That's I remember I don't remember which movie it was that Alex Jones did a long time ago, like probably 20 years ago, where he talked about the 15-minute cities, where everything that you need within the city would be 15 minutes walk of your house, and there would be very little cars except for the rich, and you would only be allowed to leave on certain times. Well, they're already starting talking about these 15-minute cities, and in London, I saw a video of people running over. They were putting these steel bollards up to cut people off from streets and prevent them from moving. And as part of these 15-minute cities, they want to cut you off and confine you to a certain area, put everything you need in that area with city planning rather than people freely making the decisions. And we've seen centralized planning does not work well for economies, freedoms, or prosperity. Because anytime we've seen it around the world, you can say what you want about capitalism. There is crony capitalism, but there's nothing that meets the needs of human beings, allows innovation and freedom like free enterprise, the freedom to go where you want and set up a business and do business with who you want to. That has met the needs of more people in the world than any other system. And when economies try to go switch, whether it be East Germany or Soviet Russia, whatever it is, Cambodia, or not Cambodia, but China, they take Mao Zedong's great revolution or cultural revolution and the Great Leap Forward. This is what a lot of them are trying to do right now, is exactly what Mao Zedong did, and save the environment, move the people off the environment into population centers planned by, in that case, the Chinese Communist Party, but in this, affiliates of the World Economic Forum. And they want planned economies, planned cities, and they think they're so smart that they can figure all this stuff out for us. And we don't need the freedom because they're going to give us everything we need. And I think eventually that leads to, I think that's the UBI is part of the step to that. Let's get everybody to stop working and get used to just collecting a check, and that you won't really need to work because we won't have any work for you. So I mean, it is a real problem if you think about it. The idea that we're going to replace all you people with machines and computers, well, what are we going to do with you all day? So I understand that is an issue. If you got a factory that you fully automate, and what do all the people who used to work there going to do? If there's no job for them, you either have to let them starve, or they can go back on the land, or you can take care of them and just give them everything they need, and basically they spend their money to keep this fake economy going around and around. So anyway, the idea is that they're going to move us out of the land into the cities and into these 15-minute cities that are popping up right now. And they're talking about, well, you're only going to be able to leave the city 100 times a year right now. Only the wealthy will be allowed to own a car, kind of like the Hunger Games, really. And we've talked about all the dystopias we're basically living through right now, and we are living through them. Like Alvin said, it is the dystopia now. It's just not got to the point in where we live.
We just don't have cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just not got to the point where they can be open about it, because everybody still believes that we live in a truly free country, and that died a long time ago. Well, but that lets us still at least be somewhat free. They can't be overt in it, and they have to keep up the illusion, because that's part of how they keep us along for the ride. It's like, well, we're free.
The only thing I can segue with, if you had AI and robotics taking over some of that stuff, if humans have more free time, that could actually, there can be good that comes from some of that, because, arts, instead of having AI make all your art, how about you have the AI do the stuff that keep us from making art?
Yeah. Well, I think there's something to that for sure. But, I think the main thing is they don't want us, because art is inspired by your surroundings. A lot of times art is shitty stuff around you, makes you either want to express that shitty stuff, or it makes you want to break through and have something inspirational and hopeful. And I don't think they want any of that. And I also don't think they want us to go back to being self-reliant, because that makes them unnecessary. So they're trying to meet all our needs without us realizing there's something bigger, and without us realizing that there is a control system around us, because we have everything we want, and they want to keep us hitting dopamine by playing video games, Facebook, things like this, likes. They want to give us artificial satisfaction by doing that, but it's ultimately it is artificial. And it's like, so I guess some people are like Cyrus or Cypher in the Matrix. And there's a little Freudian slip there, I guess, of Cyrus. But Cypher in the Matrix, who, he just wants to eat his steak and he doesn't care that it's not real. And then there's some people who, actually desire freedom. And that's the people they want to keep from realizing what we're going on. But now, before, a lot of people will like to say, well, it's just the World Economic Forum. It's just a place where people meet. They don't really have any power. They're not the government. But they're actually partnered with the UN and partnered with governments all over the world. And if you want to see how powerful they are, let's look at this right here. This is from the European Conservative. Up to 5,000 soldiers to be deployed to secure upcoming WF meeting in Davos. So the Swiss Swiss military is actually deploying, and the Swiss get a... because they are a neutral country, quote unquote neutral, and they managed to stay out of some of the larger conflicts of the past 100 years. Well, one, that's because that's where all the rich people keep their money, so they kind of don't get involved in that. They're kind of above all that. That's where all these big banks are based out of. But two, well, they do actually have a badass military, and they're who guards the Pope. So Switzerland is definitely connected to power. They actually have almost like the original Constitution of the United States, a very much more libertarian / anarcho-capitalism, at least for the wealthy over there. But they're deploying 5,000 soldiers for the WEF meeting that is upcoming, or has it happened already? Let's see, they meet in January. They released on the 6th. Yeah, the 16th through the 20th. So it starts tomorrow. That's when the WEF meeting says, and there are going to be 33,000 participants. It's not. It says here the guest list is not public, but it has actually, some of it has been released. I think somebody actually released it to InfoWars, and I've not seen it, but it is out there if you're interested in it. So it's definitely not just a group where people get together and talk about this stuff. These are actually movers and shakers, and Klaus Schwab's the founder of it. And a lot of people say this is the public front of the Bilderberg group, which still meets every year. They just not much media coverage of it anymore. Actually, when they met last year, Luke Rakowski, I think, was the only journalist at the event, at the Bilderberg meeting. But that's become one of those things too, where it's almost like people don't even. It's public knowledge. If you look it up, you can find it's true, but it makes you sound like a conspiracy theorist if you talk about it. Mm-hmm. I want to go to this story from the Daily Beast. And I think this is especially interesting because this is from October 1st, 2019. So this is before the COVID surveillance state that people like the Daily Beast supported at the time, right? Remember, they were a lot of these mainstream rags, especially, well, I call them rags, but I think Daily Beast is digital only. But a lot of these mainstream news outlets, they supported all the lockdowns, and they silenced critics of it. They said follow the science, even though they wasn't actually scientific what they were doing. I mean, that's the whole idea of science, right? Is you're supposed to question it and be able to withstand criticism. If it can't withstand criticism, then it's not valid. But this is from the Daily Beast back October 1st, 2019. Smart cities are creating a mass surveillance nightmare. With a chip that can track your every move, New York City's city issued ID cards are about to take a seriously dystopian turn. And as we go on down a little bit here, we're looking at de Blasio wants to put a tiny RFID chip into every municipal ID for New York residents as part of ID NYC program. And they say right here, the latest proposal might seem modest, but the reality is that it potentially puts hundreds of thousands of us at greater risk of identity theft, stalking for undocumented New Yorkers, deportation, And sadly, it's part of a global trend towards so-called smart cities, a series of high-tech undertakings to claim to improve municipal efficiency at the modest price of stripping us of our privacy and autonomy. Now, see, the Daily Beast used to get some stuff right every now and then. Every now and then. But they know the game here, but yet they went on to advocate for exactly this system, for COVID vax passports and all this stuff a year later.
Yeah.
Or a little over a year later. And here we get into the idea we were talking about they say they've got a lot of outlandish claims. There's the solution to the opioid crisis, to de facto school segregation. The most outlandish thing they say is that robocops will even prevent crimes before they happen. Dystopia, anyone? Anybody got Minority Report on their bingo card for 2019, 2023? And we're talking about big and small towns are doing this. And I'll tell you what, man. If you think about a smart network, like the lights on most cities, traffic lights on most cities are on a smart network. It's connected to a command center for somewhere in the county or city. They have a system that programs these things to change, different times of the day, like you talked about. Ambulances come through can affect them. Do you find it more or less efficient to drive through Elizabethton over the last few years with the red lights?
It's always been shit.
It's always been shit, but over the last 4 or 5 years, they've set these red lights up where you stop every time. They're set up that way. If you go through in the morning, even if there's nothing coming the other way, that light will change and you will have to stop. And they used to all work on sensors so that if somebody pulled up, it would know you were there and it would, trigger the light to change within a certain amount of time. And now they're set automatically.
The one at the Welcome Center, that's the intersection to where, you go left to hit into downtown where the monument is. It turns from that stupid little parking lot in like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And it catches me every damn time I'm going to work.
Yeah, and there's nobody going there.
No, there's nothing there. It's like there's hardly anything there during the traffic hours. It's like why is this turning the traffic at like 4:50 in the morning?
I've decided they either want to try to get you to run a red light so they can give you a ticket, or they are just doing it for the benefit of the businesses there, because they figure if you stop at every red light, you'll be more likely to pull in at a local business.
No, and it kind of does things like that. Do the opposite to me. It pisses me off. Makes me not want to go anywhere near there.
No shit, man. Yeah, my wife won't even drive through there because of all that nightmare.
If you can hit it well, and if you hit it at a certain time in the morning, you can make it through. The only one that you have to stop at's the main intersection by Food City that caused that. It's the only one that has to stop, and it seems to be still weight censored.
If you get through there and through those red lights going down the main strip, you have to go in the morning at least at rush hour between 7 and 8 o'clock. If you want to make it from one lot to another, you have to be in the front of the line. You have to accelerate very quickly to 10 miles per hour over the speed limit and hold it, and then you'll make it through it just as it's yellow. And it's timed. They're all like that. So if you can hit 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, you'll hit every light if it turns yellow going down through there, if you're at the front of the line. Otherwise, you'll get stopped at almost every one.
Though in middle of the night through till like, morning rush hour, if you hit it, you can actually go all the way through town if you hit it just perfectly. Yeah. You can get from one end of Elizabeth, you can get all the way from my house to the other end of Elizabeth in like 11 minutes.
It's a little more,
it's super fast if you can get through them.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little more reasonable in other parts of the day, but for morning and evening, it's awful. But either way, those timers are not helping you get through there, so it's not helping with the traffic. Here we go. We got an example from the Daily Beast of Baltimore and Atlanta with large swaths of their governments ground to a halt when attackers used ransomware to encrypt government computer systems, demanding large payments in exchange for the key. So now you want to plug all of our personal information everywhere we're traveling, our home, our ID, any bus pass. They want your medical records with the COVID vaccine. They want to tie all that to that. And don't forget, Daily Beast, they supported all that crap when COVID came out. So it's like, we were against it, but now we're for it. But either way, they lost the plot, but they had it to begin with, because like in Baltimore, for example, the data was permanently lost. So definitely puts you at risk from not only hackers and bad guys, but again, I don't want the government to have that information for me, not just the bad guys.
Yeah.
Um,
And all the infrastructure in this country is so old, it's not really that difficult for someone to shut it down if they wanted to begin with.
well, just take the planes, the FAA systems went down. They were 30 years old, which doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. I mean, if it's you got a good internal code that you're building on, doesn't necessarily mean it's bad that the code is 30 years old, as long as it works. And it did work for 30 years with that's probably the only time I've ever heard of their software failing and the FAA going down and flights not being able to get out. But the more stuff that is dependent on that, the more likely it is we're going to have some sort of catastrophe or
And all that old legacy hardware, it's like they don't make that anymore.
yeah, the companies that made a lot of it are out of business.
And it's actually to find a legacy system to run some of those old utilities and stuff, so in languages it still works, you have to still run like Windows 98 systems, and to find new build systems that are like that are more expensive than, they're like on par with like high-end modern gaming rigs for something that was outdated 30 years ago.
Now, I don't know about now, but at least a few years ago, the military ran all their like targeting and aircraft and stuff. They were running it on XP. I don't know if that's still the case or not. They may have updated it since then. But a lot of this FAA stuff is run on Windows 98 or Windows Millennium Edition, and they still are running these old ass.
ME was horrible.
Yes, and actually, I think this one that does the FAA, it started as a DOS based program. And it hasn't been significantly updated over the years. I mean, it obviously has been scaled out, but I mean, how good, you really don't need that good of software. Just need to, I guess you don't need to update it that much to track flights in and out and from different locations. You just need to add to the computing power for it to be able to keep up with everything. As far as the computation is probably pretty basic.
But I mean, with how advanced everything is, if it's interconnected to a network and it's old like that, there are less methods to protect it.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And also with that segue with also this, how, where they don't want you to travel and they want everything to be the straight up electric cars, but the power grids in most of this country can't support that sort of stuff. Like, look at that thing they did in California. It's like, oh, they're putting all this stuff to start banning gas.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, but wait, you can't, we don't have enough power to let you charge your cars, too. Yeah. It's like.
Yeah, and they want to do a lot of this stuff, and there's not even, like, there's no way for the minerals and metals to keep up with the demand of it either. And there's the guy on Joe Rogan, I forget the guy's name the other day, but he came on and he showed how there were these supposedly industrial mines. They were actually artisan mines, which means they were hand-dug mines over in Africa with thousands of men, women, and children working in these mines, digging up cadmium or cobalt, which is necessary for these electric batteries to make the lithium-ion batteries actually function like they're supposed to. So you're using, I don't know if you could say slave labor or not, but that's what he said. I don't know enough of the specifics, but anyway, they're working children hand digging these things, these toxic sludge of rare earth minerals, cadmium, cobalt.
They have created some better stuff using sodium batteries. Oh, yeah. It's a sodium ion. They've gotten them to where they're just about, they're bigger right now, so it's still not perfected, but they're getting it to where they're able to pull similar power drains and have similar capacities to lithium ion.
Well, you just think about, if you watch that video and you see how many of these mines are just full of thousands of people digging like this, you just think about right now, because electric cars are like, what, 1 to 3% of the cars on the road right now, and they're going to switch them over to being, they want them to be all the cars on the road by, what, 2050? They want us, like, their ideal, if you go to the WEF, their goal is to have it like 50% of the cars on the road be electric by 2030, but I forget what they say, lofty goal, or their the best case scenario, they want 0 cars on. So go on the WEF website, check it out. We don't have time to get into every bit of it tonight. Tim says he wasn't sure that the Wachowskis referenced the allegory of the cave, the movie Tron, Descartes, and other things like that. But no, there was a specific Greek story that they referenced too, that it was based on. I mean, the allegory of the cave was part of it, but I think this story was based on the allegory of the cave. But definitely Descartes was a big part of it. Actually, I think that might have been it. Actually, Tim, something from Descartes. Wild Bluff Screamer says, speaking of chips, would those chips sync to that free Wi-Fi on the smartphones? Absolutely, they would, and that is what we're going to get into next. We are going to get into some, in my opinion, bombshell information that, because usually you only find this stuff on conspiracy sites. You don't usually find the kind of stuff I'm about to show you on accredited universities and prestigious places like this. Wild Bluff Screamer says, now that would lower crime if everyone was chipped and the polls knew exactly when who is where. Yeah, and it may do it, but it also, that allows them to define something that is not criminal as crime. And we got a fun discussion about that at the end of the show about Johnson City in the 1950s. I can't wait to get to that. But before we get into it, I want to show you, now the place I found this information is Cambridge University. Now, the second oldest university in the UK, Cambridge, goes back hundreds of years, and we've got lots of, now before anybody can say that this is just some research stuff that they're doing at university, just like we can't say, oh, well, the World Economic Forum doesn't have any power. They're only some of the biggest cities in the world they're partnering with to put this technology in. So, and they have a giant conference every year. They're going to have 5,000 soldiers from the Swiss Army, the same military force that guards the Vatican, which is the ecumenical center for the whole world. You notice when they have stuff just the other day, they had like all three of the Abrahamic religions go together and have some kind of signing there. But you notice they always go to the Vatican. The Vatican always runs this stuff. In the 80s, when we talked about John Paul II and the Assisi group, like all the different religions got together and the Vatican ran the whole thing. So it's the ecumenical center of the world. You got your three power centers. You got Rome and the Vatican. You got London, that's the financial capital, and then you got Washington D.C., that's the military capital of the world. And all these guys are connected to the World Economic Forum. Lots of politicians in all these governments are in the Economic Forum. So you can't say they don't have any power. But this is from Cambridge University. Here's one of their oldest buildings here. And like I said, it's hundreds of years old. We got guys like, we literally named Newtonian physics after Isaac Newton, who was Cambridge alumni. We've got Stephen Hawking, was Cambridge alumni. Alan Turing, the Turing test for robots. Mm-hmm. He was a computer scientist, logician, and mathematician and philosopher. Francis Bacon, Trinity College at Cambridge there. William Harvey. He's the first physician to make a detailed description of the circulatory system. Sylvia Plath, she was better known as Victoria Lucas, but she's a poet and author. And anyway, she got lots of big important names who've gone to I think Francis Bacon being one of the most important. A lot of people say he's actually Shakespeare, and if you take their portraits, you can actually see, if you remove the facial hair, they look identical. But so you got Stephen Hawking, you got he's one of the most famous physicists of the last century. You got Isaac Newton. You got really prominent scientists and scholars at Cambridge. So the point is, it's not just some random place where people are coming up with ideas that'll never happen. So I want to show you here. This is the University of Cambridge. I've linked this in the description of the video.
Added a little bit for the matrix.
Okay, he says, Descartes, I think, therefore I am. It also has a bit of the Eastern mysticism behind it. The idea is that we're in a grand dream. The Turing test is not a good test, but it was the start of AI. How about that? We just talked about Turing. I don't know if he wrote that after we talked about it or not. But I do want to show you, this is the University of Cambridge, the Department of Chemical Engineering and Biotechnology. We'll go into what bio nano engineering is. I use expertise from different research areas such as synthetic chemistry, materials science, molecular biology, physics, and analytical sciences to design sensing devices and hybrid materials for artificial enzymes and artificial tissue design. As we work towards applications, we continue developing new molecules, linkers, light-sensitive molecules, nanostructured elements, nanoparticles, bio-nano hybrids, and tools, direct laser writing strategies, bioconjunction methods, which end up in our nano toolbox for future use. Okay, so guys, let's just go ahead and get past this part. Nanobots are real now. You've seen them in games, you've seen them in movies. They're always scientific, sci-fi stuff of the future. Nanobots are here. They are a real thing. Cambridge University, among many others, is developing these things. The Pentagon and DARPA probably have stuff that probably had stuff that they were working on here like 20 years ago, as well as your different, military science applications all around the world. The special operations group, intelligence groups, they've probably got way more advanced stuff than this even. This is just what is going out for use on and by the general public. And remember we talked about as above, so below. Well, just like they want to have, look at the sky, look at the space junk or a satellite map of what's around the Earth. There are thousands of satellites going around the Earth. They're scanning every bit of the Earth. There's military satellites. There's commercial satellites. There are satellites looking out into space. We got orbiters on all different kinds of planets around the sun. We got them, New Horizons out in Pluto. Just gave us a clear ass. Just looks like from Earth, pictures of the ice mountains out there in Pluto. They've got their eye everywhere, and guess where they want that eye now?
On your butthole.
That's right. In your ring. They not just the rings of Saturn's, they want in your ring. They want inside your body with this stuff. They want the microcosm.
They want to see the dark side of Uranus.
They want to see the inside of Uranus. That's right, where the sun literally doesn't shine, but they want to shine a light in there. They want to know what's going on. Let's go a little bit into this. They got functional hybrid materials. They talk about the different composites they can use for biopolymer nanocomposites with covalently embedded nanoparticles for drug delivery and tissue engineering. Tissue engineering. What does that mean? It means constructing, taking apart, redesigning pieces of your body. Photo-encoded interfaces. Chemical strategies to design light-controllable interfaces for material science and surface structure. We use either photo cleavage to change surface properties or photo click chemistry to covalently link different species and materials. Different species and materials covalently linked. Particularly fruitful collaboration with Christopher Barnard-Kowalik Group from the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, Germany, has resulted in a number of new light-triggered click strategies for application in nanoengineering. Biomolecular conjugation and structuring. Subproject focused on the development of strategies to prepare DNA and protein conjugates for applications in DNA-directed immobilization and structuring and use of natural DNA for design optoelectric devices. Okay. So they're basically talking about going into your body and using light, using sound waves, using nano machines to basically redesign, restructure, reorganize not only your physical structure, but your body's communication. They want to use it to be able to deliver drugs. They want to be able to, and not, it could be even like the soma in, we see movies like Equilibrium or novels like Brave New World or THX 1138, where the citizens in these societies are required to take this medication, and we see some people rebel and they don't take their medication, and it allows them to see the world in a whole new light. Well, you won't be able to rebel. You won't be able to refuse their medications if they give you a nanoparticle injection. Could they give you a nanoparticle spray that you would actually inhale? Not only that, we're going to go on to the next page here, the research area. This is the Internet of Everything group. For the Internet of Bio-Nano Things. Again, this is a real project, folks. This is not science fiction. This is not some dystopian movie. This is real. This is what some of the most prominent minds in universities and research around the world are working on. And this is called the Internet of Everything. You heard of the Internet of Things, right? Mm-hmm. What's the Internet of Things? Give us a quick.
Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, I would say the best thing is like your smart fridge, your smart thermostat, your smart plugs, your smart lights, your smart electric meter. All these things work together to create a grid of communicating devices that allow our modern society to function in a way that it can, in a way that does. If you go to the show Silicon Valley, this is a show by Mike Judge, who we've talked about a lot on the show. We've not talked about this show much, but part of the idea of that show is they create a network that uses everybody's cell phones to create a giant peer-to-peer sharing device network that actually becomes the internet. And the internet becomes all these devices working together. And so you store a photo and it actually breaks it up into a million pieces and sends it out to everybody's devices. That way only your encryption key can unlock this photo, but it's on the internet and it's distributed amongst everybody's devices. So you only have to have a tiny bit of storage on your phone to be able to keep this photo, right? Well, this is the way the Internet of Things works. And your fridge, if you have a smart fridge, smart microwave, smart washer, all these are using, you're using computational power to basically run the whole worldwide grid, and lots of other little things get in there. Communications, you name it. They can borrow power from one device or another. Even like eventually the goal is if you need to do something with computing power, you won't actually have to have the computing power on your device. There'll be a large network of devices that work together, and your device will just be an interface to that computing power. So you won't even need like a processor, not a powerful processor in your actual device that you're using, for whether it be gaming, PCs, telephone. It'll all be shared processing with the rest of the world. So that's the Internet of Things. There's also what's called the Internet of Bodies. The human body is a communication network of nano networks composed of billions of nanomachines, i.e. cells, whose functionalities depend on molecular communications. Molecular communication is the key enabling communication methodology in biological mediums. The bio-inspired form of communication is happening within our living cells already and is a coordinated, complex, and successful manner. So they're equating the cells that are already in our body to nanomachines, and if you think about it, they really are. They're biological, nanomachines are biological versions of it. They go on to describe in this here how they're going to use Alzheimer's and epilepsy monitoring and brain stimulation networks. These are nanomachines. Body areas, they got heart monitoring networks, cancer monitoring, drug delivery networks. And these are these hook to a bio-cyber interface where you go from the macro to the micro. And that's where we connect to. They are going to hook those bots to your internet or your smart poles. You're going to hook it to your phone, and that's going to go, they show here, to your healthcare provider. But just like we discussed in the last article with the Daily Beast, that can be hacked. It can go to the government, who can use it to oppress you. It can go to some sort of corporation to oppress you. Either way, this is very dangerous technology, and it is in production. And as we go on here, it shows how they can actually use this thing, including the 5G terahertz communication, to have super high frequency, or super high, not frequency, but rapid data transmission on the short range, using these 5G networks to be able to then use that to communicate over longer ranges. We go into the cognitive sensor radio network, and look at this. This is what you're a part of right here. They want your body to be in this. You got your tower, and then you've got all your nodes to it. Well, your body's going to be part of this. You're going to be a piece of wetware in this network. We're going to have hardware. We're going to have wetware running this software through it, and you're going to be part of it unless you realize it and stop this. I don't know what we do to stop it exactly, but the first thing we got to do is let people know about it, and let people know that this is not okay for people to be creating little machines to go into our bodies and monitor our every move and our every bodily function. I mean, do you want your mayor to know when you fart? That's literally what we're talking about here. You have no personal freedom, because if they decide that they want something that you're doing to be stopped, they will know what you're doing. And just like in China, where you make a social media post or you say something that's against the rules, it doesn't take long to have two guys at your door show up to rough you up. and they've already lost their ability to defend themselves. So what do? They just say they're sorry and beg for forgiveness while they get the shit beat out of them, and hope that they don't get tossed in a cell for the rest of their life or put in a work farm. So China is already headed down this road, even without these bio-nanotech sensors. Just imagine it's like the Chinese communist regime having this stuff on everybody, where instead of your Vax Pass on your phone, they've got it. You can't fake it. It's in your body. They'll know if you've had this medication, if you're supposed to. They'll know if you're where you're not supposed to be. You couldn't just leave your phone somewhere so they wouldn't think you were there, and they're tracking the phone. Once they have it in your body, they can get you everywhere. Mm-hmm. And we go on down here to...
It's like, I hate that. It's like, I know that's what they want, but sometimes whenever you think, you're like, oh, the good part of it, like how you said, like the stuff, like the growth part,
mm-hmm.
Like that could actually be like of some good.
Yeah.
It has good implementations. You could use those nano machines. You could be like, something
repair
happens.
A spinal cord.
Yeah, you can repair a spinal cord. So paraplegics, quadriplegics, something happens, you lose something. You could have a new one made and have the nano machines graft it
mm-hmm.
back into your nervous system.
That would absolutely
There
be
are
great.
wonderful things that could do this, but then there's more of that.
The people who are developing these systems, though, after they tell us the things that sound good to us that we could use them for, they go on to tell how it will be used to control every aspect of our lives, remove all bodily autonomy from us. Eventually, it'll be just like you can't drive without a driver's license, or you can't go to, just imagine like the VA. You have to have a VA card. You have to go in there. You have to show your card and scan every time you get them to go. And so basically, you're going to have eventually, you're going to have these machines to be able to have medical services. I mean, that will be the goal. It'll be mandatory, or they won't see you. Just like you can't, a lot of places you couldn't get a kidney transplant unless you had the COVID vax. Well, next thing you know, you won't be able to get a kidney transplant unless you've had your nanobot injection. And they'll be able to tell if you have had them, and very easily. Let's go back here. We missed a bunch of chats here. Spill, thank you for joining us in the chat. Thank you so much. We always love hearing from you. And let's see what she says here. Got to stretch this out here. We've missed a bunch of chats. Let's see. The Turing test is, Tim says that's at the start of AI. It was at the start of AI, for the Turing test. Spill says she caught the tail end, had to drive her son to Chico to grab a truck. The rain is nuts. You guys still dealing with that, huh? Monty Python, hive mind. Our cells are our ancestors. Well, yeah, that's right. Genetic memory. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like a lot of people call it instinct, but a lot of people say that, that DNA is passed on, and instinct has to do with learning from our ancestors' past. They show that does happen. And that's why, a bird can be born. Nobody ever has to show it. It knows the route to follow to travel somewhere safely for the winter. It knows a route to travel, where it can go. It knows how to get there. And that's all in its DNA, and that's what they want to hack. They want to hack our very being. Just like they want to know what's going on all around us, they want to know what's going on within us. They want to understand God. They want to understand the God inside of us. And... oh, you dumped your doctor. Good. I guess it must have been a bad doctor there. Yeah, sometimes you got to. My doctor, I've never had a good doctor. I've had nice doctors, but I've never had one I've been happy with. Wild Bluff Screamer says, "You seen the toilets that analyze your stool and urine?" Yeah, that'll be part of it, dude. That's the kind of the precursor to it. That's before they can get into your body. Now, who knows when they actually have this developed to deploy on a mass scale? But they are working on it. And Spill says it has its pros, I'm sure, but the cons are what I'm stuck on. Yeah. There's definitely pros to it, like Dustin was talking about. I mean, you could like regenerate somebody's eye that lost their sight, regenerate connections in their brain for somebody who's had a stroke, somebody that's, had a collapsed aorta. You could rebuild it. There's all kinds of applications. I mean, that would be beneficial too. But the problem is the people who have the ability to construct these systems on a large scale have something else in mind. And these are a lot of the people who tie into the World Economic Forum and all their membership states, and they've openly said they think there's too many people. We use too much resources. They want us to live in pods and eat bugs.
So maybe what we should do is, if it's inevitably coming, we should go ahead and learn how to hack the nano machines to fight back.
There you go. There you go. I mean, I think that's ultimately important. That's like they're going to be the next stage.
Make it work. Make it work for you, like a Marvel, the 2099 series, like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
With all of his stuff's nano machines, all of his
Right.
powers.
Well, maybe that's what, maybe that's where Logan gets his regenerative power. Maybe he has tiny nanomachines, and I don't really know. I don't remember how and supposedly he got the regeneration in X-Men.
When he was born, he was a mutant. That was his power to begin with.
Right,
his
but
regeneration.
I'm saying maybe he's got nanomachines in. Maybe that's why he's a mutant. Have you seen they're trying to think of a new name that's less gender whatever for X-Men, that they want to like call it X people or something, or
No.
yeah, I just saw that. Yeah, too bad, no pod and no bugs, says Spill. Yes, Spill, I'm right there with you. Let's go on just a little bit more before we take our intermission, and we're going to get into the Vice City of Little Chicago, Johnson City, Tennessee in the 1950s. We're going to look at this real quick, the Internet of Space. They're talking about a new paradigm emerging under Internet of Everything, enabling interplanetary and suborbital networks. 2,000 satellites orbiting Earth, and many more launches are being planned, making suborbital networks inevitable. Countless landings on extraterrestrial objects and the possibility of terraforming some of them make the Internet of Space vision imminent. And it connects everything from the outside. So they're going on, we're talking micro and macro coming together. They're walking all the way from inside your body to space. All the connections between the different planetary bodies and orbiters and everything. It's all going to be hooked together. And who's going to be in control of it? Certainly not you as an individual, and certainly not me and Dustin as an individual. We got the Internet of Vehicles, and they're talking about how they're going to connect them all. You know, there's the law that all of them have to have a kill switch in them by 2025. Now they're going to have they want to get rid of people driving cars. They want them all self-driven. They want them all connected into the smart grid, which is connected into your body, which is connected to the solar system, and they want all this stuff running through one system. So, in long and short of it is, we started this thing on smart poles, but now we have actual proof that it's way worse than you thought. I mean, as conspiracy theorists, guys, we already knew this, right? We've been seeing this coming for years, but now I've found it on actual, prestigious university websites where they spell the whole plan out and they make it sound good. But it's there, dude. It's exactly what we've been warned about for years. They feel open saying it now because they can give you the good reasons for doing it, and they are in the process of creating this stuff if they've not already got it. So as with, so without, says Spill. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that autocorrect will get you, man. Just like this autocorrect of my settings on the system here gave us a really bad echo, even though I didn't change anything on our Wednesday night show, so sorry about that. And we did the Antichrist show last week, but we didn't. I mean, we went through more of the prophecy and stuff, but we talked about the beast system. This is what I think, if anything is the beast system, Christians, this is it. So if you're in a Christian church, don't you think your preacher should be telling you about this kind of stuff? Isn't this like the moment you've been waiting for? Isn't this game time as a Christian? Is when you see a system like this being set up around you. Isn't this when you, as the church, have the duty to inform your congregation that this is, whether you believe in Satan or the beast or the Antichrist or not, this has all the characteristics of it. Mm-hmm. And it just seems like you should really be letting people know about this. If you go to a church and your preacher's not talking about this, you should ask him why. And if he doesn't have a good reason, maybe you should look at a different church. I don't want to tell you what to do, but if you're a preacher, what are you doing if you're not talking about this? But anyway, they're there is the internet of bio nano things, part of the internet of everything that is being set up. Cambridge is one of the leading universities in the world, so there are who knows how many universities are following their lead, tied into this. You can find out if you want to. I'm sure there's, I mean, at the bottom of this page, there's all kinds of different accreditations and different connections to other institutions that are using it. And just like we said, forest through the trees, said the Wild Bus friend. That's right. They want to see the forest and the trees, and down to the inside of those trees. So with that, we're going to take a quick intermission, and it is 11:30, and then I'm going to show you about the Vice City of Little Chicago in the 1950s. So hang with us, please, and we'll see you in just a minute.
Oh my God, coming to the checkered flag. I can't believe what I just saw.
Did you ever think to yourself, why doesn't the driver just put the car up against the wall and floor it?
Right in the wall. Oh my God, coming to the checkered flag. I can't believe what I just saw.
Into the championship.
Let's go get us a championship.
And the fight for the points right at the line. Take a look at what he did.
I have never seen anything like that before in my life.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Next time you see something that has not been done, do not assume it has not been done, because it cannot be done. Be more like Ross Chastain. Be more like the driver who says, maybe I can put my car against the wall and finish.
Oh my God, coming to the checkered flag. I can't believe what I just saw.
All right, welcome back. Glad to have you with us. If you've just checked it, just joining us, be sure and go back to listen to the beginning of this episode. This is a very important one. It's part of the whole reason we started the show. So go back and listen to it. For the love of God.
Comes full circle.
That's right. It does. Just like this fella going around the racetrack. It all comes full circle. And this show has a way of doing that here on our 69th episode, As Above, So Below. I do want to show you the remainder of the episode. This is going to be based on this is stateoffranklin.net. It's in the description of the show if you want to go check this out. All kinds of crazy stuff, great photos, great history. Excuse me, I had a little burp there. The great history of the city of Johnson City in that area. Now, I want to show you this. This is from...
And also to segue, when am I not yawning?
Yeah, as long as I've known Dustin, he's always yawned. Even when he didn't work, when he worked third shift, he would come over and we'd do band practice, and it'd be like 9 o'clock, and it was like, oh, we're tired. But
I just woke up. I mean, doesn't matter. I don't know. I'm always yawning.
This is from Look magazine in 1952, and they're talking. We're losing the battle against sin. Well, I think that ship has sailed. But I do want to look here at this article because it mentions Johnson City, and this is the battle against sin. We got our seductive looking young lady here sitting at the bar with this young soldier, and we got 7 years ago, organized commercialized prostitution was all but wiped out. Yeah, right. Today, the vice racketeers have brazenly secured a comeback and are using a new generation of girls to victimize and exploit young servicemen and defense workers. As if they're not victimizing and exploiting the young women who they're... I mean, my God. No, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not good to create an industry where young men, it's not healthy for those young men to be dependent on prostitutes. Don't get me wrong. It's not that they're not victimizing them too, but they don't even mention the young women. And they repeatedly, especially in the press article that we're about to read, the press response to this, they paint these young prostitutes and young women as the bad guys in all this. I think that what is just insane when you think. I mean, how many young women go out there and start prostitution because I'm gonna, it's out of desperation almost every time that a young woman starts that and they realize that they, well, I guess now with OnlyFans and they got prostitution by opportunity, but then back then only. It was now it's so open. It's like it wouldn't even be a big deal. But back then, um, it's definitely victimization. You'd have to be at your last out of choices to be a prostitute in most cases in the 1940s and 50s. But they did an investigation in 1945 of the American Social Hygiene Association. They found that only 4 cities out of every 100 deserved their designation of bad of vice. And we go around and they talk about how the prostitution's picking back up after the end of World War II. You got all the GIs coming back, and then it says the young women, the prostitutes, are the one taking advantage of this. Okay, the prostitutes, they don't keep all that money, right? They get to keep a cut, just enough basically to keep them alive, and the rest goes to the organization that is setting up the prostitution networks, same as it's always been. But anyway, they talk about these women victimizing the servicemen coming back from World War II, and that it's worse than it's ever been. And then they give us a list of cities that how they rated in survey of vice conditions. And you got all these different cities up here from good to fair to poor. And we got Memphis in it, poor. Memphis is poor. We go down here where we got Johnson City. Johnson City is in bad, the hot spots. We got Knoxville, Chattanooga, Johnson City. A lot of these routes that we saw were where the liquor was trafficked during Prohibition. So like we said, when you push bad behavior underground, it spurns more bad behavior and it spreads. So that's where you had all this stuff going on. So I wanted to read the response because I think this is the most interesting part. Some of this from the Johnson City Press Chronicle from February 16th, 1952. Benny C. Sands responded to this article by the Look magazine. He says, "Is Johnson City as vice-ridden as it has been pictured?" And it says, "No," say a number of ministers and social workers and other substantial citizens with a clear tone of optimism ringing through their obviously unqualified replies. "Yes," reply those best qualified to draw a factual picture, the police. So to get the base of an answer, if we want facts, we have to get the base of the question, the meaning of the word vice. What is vice and how does it apply to Johnson City? Webster's dictionary defines vice as a moral fault or failing, especially in moral conduct or habit, as in the indulgence of degrading appetites, as the vice of gluttony. And we go on, they talk about a little bit of the history of vice and how police have to deal with it on a daily basis. And we go to veteran vice fighter Tom Howell, police chief of Johnson City. He says, "Our biggest problem in Johnson City is not commercialized prostitution, bootlegging, and gambling." He says, "Much of this has been suppressed. Our big problem is the streetwalkers, transients, and youngsters who hang out at a few shady beer taverns and end up breaking into homes and robbing people." Now get this. Now, wait a minute. Chief Howell says the police have had little trouble resulting from established bootlegging places, professional prostitutes, or professional gamblers. And he goes on to say that these people take care that they don't sell to drunks, that they don't sell to juveniles and persons of questionable character, so they don't get in trouble. So this is basically your high society people operating and self-policing themselves, not letting people in who they know are, of low moral character. So basically, these people are all better than you, so they can drink, they can gamble, then they can fuck whores, but because you're poor and you might break into somebody's house after you get drunk with a whore, a prostitute, then you're not allowed to. But let's continue here.
It's like, I'm a professional illegal liquor runner.
That's right. He says, prior to the establishment of the Vice Squad in November, authorities knew of some 25 known prostitutes who operated professionally in Johnson City, and when they were caught, they were fined. Now they say there's only 2 of them left. Now they say few, if any, of the robberies, break-ins, acts of vandalism, or injury to person occurred at the institution or because of a professional prostitute. Like the cautious bootlegger, the professional prostitute guards against being caught, against disease, and concentrates on her monetary goal. Her monetary goal. She's the one doing this. She's not working for anybody, no. Also, she doesn't have time to walk streets, meet male companions at shady taverns, drink beer and liquor for several hours during the night. It's too much time to waste on one person, and she depends on the quick turnover, says police. Now, they won't even talk like this today. So, I mean, you think about it. Can you imagine reading this in the Johnson City Press today? They're talking about how many prostitutes are operating in Johnson City. Now we just pretend like it doesn't happen. Well, listen to this. Oddly enough, police insist they have had little or no trouble from professional gamblers. Now, gambling was illegal in Tennessee then, and it still is in a lot of cases.
Still in a lot of.
Yeah, there's some places.
That facet, it still is.
Yeah, there's some ways you can gamble, like you can do sports betting and but
you can play scratch offs.
Yeah, but there's a few ways you can gamble, but a lot of ways it's still illegal. He says, oddly enough, police insist they have had little to no trouble with professional gamblers. These persons have to be searched out, and more often than not, were smart enough to make a quick switch before police arrive. Since they are smart enough to know that their crowds, and they don't cater to questionable characters, would-be robbers and drunks, the chief pointed out. He said they rarely receive complaints about professional prostitutes, professional bootleggers, professional gamblers. Rarely do they ever get them because it isn't permitted by the professionals. So these professionals are smart enough to keep people who might get them in trouble out. So therefore, it's not a problem. It's not vice. And let me get to on down to this next part. Bootlegging is not vice. Looking at it broadly, police consider this reasoning. Bootlegging, while illegal, is not necessarily vice. In Nashville, where liquor stores are legal, many owners are highly respected persons in the community, although their wares, if overindulged, can produce vice. The selling and drinking of liquor are not necessarily vice unless overindulged to the extent that the person doing so lowers his or her moral standard. So rich people, they never lower their moral standards when they're drinking, right? They would never do anything bad. And if they were drinking and decided to gamble and fuck whores, well, that wouldn't be the same because they are wealthy and they are not going to break into your house after the fact. Let's go down a little bit further here. And now here we go. In the investigating of these crimes in Johnson City, Chief House said the origin is rarely ever traced to a pint of bonded liquor sold by a professional bootlegger or the professional gambler or a professional prostitute. Crime after crime begins in the shady taverns where women and men of low moral fiber congregate, drink beer, consume fuzzy pills or other substances. Crime starts from the hip pocket of pocket bootleggers peddling low-grade white liquor, moonshine, on the streets to low-class individuals who have little or no moral character. Are you believing this? I mean,
I don't know. The people that ran this low-grade liquor, it's like they're very selective.
Yeah. This we're talking about the professional prostitutes, gamblers, and liquor runners. And the police say each of these persons protects his interests, catering only to persons of responsibility. So they only make sure they only sell liquor, sell whores, sell drugs to people of good, upstanding moral character. Right? That's why these professionals. So
it's like, show me a news article where they handed me a pot full of money and said, make some shit up that makes this sound good without telling me.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous to me, I think. And we go on to a story about teenager Pete Jones, who's a student, and I like the way it says this. He admitted he deliberately went to a hotel for feminine pleasure and bought liquor from a cab driver, and then blames police because he was able to do so. So the police are saying, it's not my fault that he was able to do this. It was, these... of course, now the police are right. Then they saying, well, he's the one that sought that out. But let's go down to the next paragraph here. If it amounts to this, if
But
no
if he
one
had a few thousand more dollars, he would be
exactly,
he'd be all right.
it'd be
to do that.
okay. Because he doesn't have the money to do it discreetly through professional people in good standing in the community, well, then he's of low moral character, even though they're engaging in exactly the same behavior. He says that it amounts to this. If no one in Johnson City drank alcoholic beverages, there would be no beer taverns or bootleggers. But since a great portion of them drink such beverages, there are many beer parlors and a number of bootleggers who sell a lot of liquor. If no one gambled in Johnson City, there would be no gambling halls, for they can't exist on their hills. But the fact that there are some indicates that there are enough patrons interested in that pastime to make its way to Johnson City. By the same token, some 25 professional prostitutes found it financially sound to set up in Johnson City, or else they would have looked elsewhere. But all of this can hardly be called vice in the viewpoint of vice authorities here, because it involves the moral standard of the people themselves. If the people want much of it, they'll have it. If they want none of it, they'll have that too, depending on where they choose to draw the line of demarcation on moral standards. Now I'm going to go down to the last paragraph of this story here.
I only seek after godly whores.
That's right. So it goes on to say many people want to do these things, or there wouldn't be these businesses in Johnson City. It's a matter of education, not intimidation by police. 35 policemen can't fight hundreds of thousands or hundreds of patrons with any hopes of winning. Ever could they close up the town? So as long as the people want to patronize these businesses, we're going to have vice. But let me read you the last paragraph here in full. Before that, he ends. He says, meanwhile, the transient element, the real and most serious threat, continues to flourish. There are the streetwalkers and characters who loiter in some shady taverns, drinking and dreaming up ways of making money without working for it. Now, I love this last paragraph. It's my favorite part of the whole thing here. Obviously, then, the magazine, Look Magazine, missed its shot if it came to Johnson City to picture it as a vice-ridden city based on prostitution. Obviously, because all our streetwalkers are gone. We only have organized prostitution rings for high society now. And if the magazine had widened its study to include professional bootlegging and professional gambling, it still could not have painted Johnson City as a vice-ridden city within the true meaning of the word vice. Had investigators searched out and epitomized the other element, the transients and the streetwalkers, they could have painted a sordid picture of vice in Johnson City as the police see it. These floaters don't get to the churches, but many of the patrons of the professionals are to be found in church religiously, say police. They're not beyond the voice of the preacher. So
it was completely right. Only seek after them.
So the good, well-to-do people who go to church are not engaging in vice.
So
when they bang whores and do cocaine and bootleg liquor, because
you tithed it. You
right.
gave your cut to the Lord.
And there's no organized group of transients and streetwalkers. That's just a guy here or there. That's just 25 prostitutes walking around. They're not organized or anything like that, so it doesn't count as vice. Our organized prostitutes, bootleggers, and gamblers, they don't get caught because they got lots of money, because they own the police. They own most of the important businesses. And everybody's doing it, but we're going to arrest you poor people for doing it, because y'all can't handle it without breaking into Granny's store and stealing her jewelry box, or Granny's house and stealing her jewelry box. Okay, well, that's the way you feel. But I just thought that was so absurd that I had to share it with you about our local area, Johnson City. And we usually go a little bit further back in the history when I reach back into the history books for this area, but I've been looking for this story about the VA, where they busted up a gambling and vice and prostitution ring inside the National Soldiers Home, the VA of Mountain Home in Johnson City. And I cannot find that story anywhere, but I did come across this today while I was looking at it. And I was like, this is one of the weirdest, most absurd stories I've ever seen in my life. So I thought I would share it with y'all. If you're from our area, I thought you might get a kick out of it. If you're not from our area, then it's a good snapshot. Lots of whores, gamblers, and liquor. So definitely come down and see us here in Tennessee. Let's see.
Y'all come back now. You.
We got here. Wild Blood Screamer says that Jezebel corrupted my baby. That's good. She says. Phil says she can stay up late, and she's a zombie though, saying silly stuff. I just can't sleep day or night. Makes me mad. Yeah. Try some of that melatonin spill. I'm sure you've already tried that, but
That don't work for me either.
yeah, some people it does, some people it doesn't. But I don't. I have a weird. I usually sleep 3 to 4.5 hours a night. Well, usually about 4.5 hours. Usually about what I sleep every night. The weekends I usually catch up a little bit and sleep in. I slept until 9 yesterday, and I slept until like 7:30 today. But usually I go to bed at like 1:30, 2 o'clock, get up at 6:30, and I don't know, man. Just so much going on up here and all around me that I have to stay up on it. It's hard to find time to sleep, and it's hard to find. I sleep when I'm dead. The Spill also says casinos are everywhere here. Talking about in out there in California. She says she's not a gambler because she loses. I do too, man. When they first passed the Tennessee lottery out here, I won like 3 or 4 times in a row, like $49 here, $47 here, $150 here, and that was, I don't know, what, 10 years ago when the Tennessee lottery started, maybe a little bit longer.
Longer than that.
Okay, maybe like 15.
Yeah, it was like mid 2000s.
Yeah,
like
so
05 or 06 is when they got it really going, I think.
So I won a few times at the beginning, and then like I stopped winning, and so I stopped buying. And every now and then I'll buy one. I never win. I'm not winning here anything but a free ticket. And I had a friend who used to live on playing it, and he would buy he would buy like whole rolls and invest money. He had a whole system where he was like, this many percentage of the time I actually win, this percentage of the time I lose, this percentage of the time I break even. So if I spend this much in a week on this, he had a system worked out and made good money doing it. But
Me and a buddy, we had a system for a while when I worked at a gas station when I was in high school. It was before they stopped being able to sell them after a certain point at night, and you could buy them all night.
Oh, I didn't know you couldn't buy them all night.
Yeah, there was they cut it off to where it's like midnight or something. You can't
So
buy them
drunk
anymore.
people can't come in there.
But it's like I was working, like right out of high school, I was working at a local gas station. One of my buddies would come in, and he would buy them, and I'd look through the stack of all the winners. We'd card count it. We sit there and card count them.
Because you say, okay, well, we've got so many
the
of
odds
this.
are like, the odds are
winning.
like 1 in 3.14 of winning something, and I was like, okay, this one hit like 4 tickets ago, so this one will probably give you something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the way I always try to do it. If I saw somebody, that's when I would actually buy a ticket. When I would see somebody come in and buy like 3 or 4 and not win anything, I'd be like, oh, I want what he got. Yeah.
And then there was a lady after that got caught embezzling and stealing a bunch of them. So then we stopped it before the state actually stopped being able to sell them after a certain point in the night. So yeah, he ruined that employee ruined our little gold mine we had.
Thanks a lot, you person of low moral character.
Yeah, I know. We were professional about it.
That's right. Hey, listen, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Phil says you can run liquor through a supposed filter to make it better to drink, but can't confirm this. Yeah, that may be something we visit again is Johnson City. During Prohibition, you had the Jake leg, where later, they used that to scare people to not drink liquor, but later we found out the government was actually poisoning the liquor so they could say, hey, look, this liquor is going to make you sick. You better not drink it. Well, it was the government poisoning it. So yeah, it did make you sick after they made you sick. Tim says lottery stops at 11 so the computer can catch up before the night's winning numbers. Okay. I still think it's to keep those people of low moral character. But no, that makes sense actually. But listen, I appreciate you joining us. Be sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, share. Go to Rumble, the Iron Mountain Hour. Email us at theironmountainhour@gmail.com. If you watch this video on Rumble, please hit a Rumble Plus or a like or whatever the hell it is they have. They change it all the time. But definitely give us some credit, comment on it.
Tickle our rumbles.
That's right. Rumble our algorithm. We appreciate you joining us, and we will see you Wednesday for the news and current events roundup. Oh, you can tear up scratchers, though, Tim says. later on. So yeah, we appreciate
You can't cash them in. I think some places might let you buy them, but you can't cash them in after a certain time.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind. But thank you so much for joining us. We will see you on Wednesday for the news and current events roundup. And then on Sunday, I'm not sure the topic we'll be getting into yet. I'll let you know on Wednesday. Appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next time, guys. Thank you. Have a good night and good day. Or what is it? Well, Cronkite said good night and good luck.